Hey, everybody, and welcome back to X's for Show, your premier media response show where we talk about all the nerdy things you're checking out all week long. I'm Nico, and you can check me out at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION. And I know he wasn't here, but I'm a Gold Ranger guy, and I'm so psyched to be here.
That's
And I'm
totally
TK.
fair.
Nope. I'm TK. I'm a Green Ranger guy. I am also so excited to be here. And you can find me at XNateXGrayX.
Which makes me your producer, Kevo. You can find me on the socials at KevoReally, KevoReally. I'm a mix. I think everyone has a few favorites. I am a green guy going way back. I also rep the blue, obviously, for a few different reasons. And yeah, just all around excited to see everyone who was here for this reunion special for Mighty Morphin. It was an exciting week.
Now, there is no version of Power Rangers that I think represents every version of the brand. It would be unfair to sell so many of the later seasons short by saying that this is, a sum total of Power Rangers. For me, I think Astronema is the greatest Ranger of all time. I'm I think Astronema is the greatest Ranger of all time. She moves me. I think it's a great story. Does anybody else, just before we get started and before we bring in our very own, how like the Green Ranger came in as like, oh, green, and then the White Ranger came in as like, oh, White Ranger. Well, not like,
Oh, our
oh,
special
white, but like
ranger?
Special
Before
Ranger.
we bring in our special ranger.
We
Yeah.
have an incredibly cute Special Ranger coming in. It's real awesome, and I'm so excited about that. But before we get there and bring in our very own super cutie, guys, favorite Rangers, talk to me.
I mean, it's as I said, Green is my favorite. I thought Tommy was so cool back in the day. And just like that was the romance plot I was really into. And, it just felt like the show got a little extra special when the Green Ranger showed up. And that to me is always like a big childhood memory that I'll never really forget.
I get that. Same in a lot of ways. It's really funny. I find as I get older, I'm not quite as attached to Tommy as a whole as I once had been. I love Green Ranger as a concept, and I love him as a heroic figure, but I love so many of the Rangers. Seeing Kat in this special was great. She's someone who I know that a lot of the fandom didn't care for at first. I was one of them because, Evil Ranger coming in and stealing Tommy from Kimberly. But she's such an amazing woman, and a lot of Rangers. But if I'm going to shout out one in particular, it's going to be Zane the Silver Ranger from Power Rangers in Space. Um, that was a season while we were in middle school, and I was realizing that I was gay, and I was like, oh, the Ranger with the frosted tips. Yep, definitely gay. Oh, are you hinting what your gay awakening? You got to flip it. We need to see the front. You're showing us the back. You're gay. No, not upside down, you nut.
I completely agree with you. I am such a big fan of so many of the replacement Rangers, as much as the original Rangers imprinted on me. I grew up a Billy. I grew up kind of like I have to push up my glasses and be nerdy, and because as a kid, you think you have to be locked into these steps. Um, but as an adult, fitness and leadership, like those two things became like a core part of my personal identity and brand. And over the years, just Jason came to mean a lot to me. A little disappointed to know why he couldn't be in this, but we really hope that everything is going to turn out best for those who were hurt and those who were injured. And the less said about that, because we don't really know everything, the better. But it was really great to see so many heroes. And I'm seeing Amy Jo is pink. We have an amazing comment. I could not agree with more already. Amy Jo is pink, bow and arrow, the only flying Zord gymnast. I was obsessed. Then she got the whip for the movie. Bradford, I think you have amazing taste in Rangers. And speaking of amazing taste in Rangers, I could not help but know that we have our very own special Ranger to boop on in. So why don't we teleport him in from the command center right now and bring in our very own special Ranger. Jake, welcome to the stage and the morphing grid, as it were.
Oh,
That was
hello.
so hot. I can't stand it.
Oh, hello.
That was
Good
great.
Good morphin, everyone. Good morphin. Hope everyone's
morphin.
having a great
Morphin to you.
aftermorph.
The Rita Repulsa to my Lord Zed, who I also thought was really, really cool. I'm a little embarrassed to say.
Which the Robo Rita or Lord
No,
Zed?
Lord Zed.
Oh, Lord Zed. Oh, well, there's something
I
about
I did love
a
Robo
muscle
Rita,
man.
though. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I have some Lord Zed news coming up for you later then. So that's good for you. I'm excited. I get it. He was a huge game changer.
First American villain too. First, they made him full scratch from
Everybody else
Times
was an
to God and
immigrant.
not from.
Yeah.
What I mean is, it wasn't
definitely-
a carryover from the Super Sentai series. Thank you very much.
And he went to the Frank Welker School of Acting because everything is about grabbing and throwing your arms.
Honestly, truly one of the best live-action TV supervillains for children ever conceived of and put on the screen and made to scare children. An Inside-Out man. Oh,
Yes.
My God, but I really came to understand that, like, if you put piping on muscle, it looked big with that boy. Now,
This is what I'm talking about.
we started this conversation with, tell me, Ranger that influenced you the most. We got a vote for Astronema, who would go on to be a Ranger herself in a following season, completing the greatest hero's journey I've seen on television since, until Jury Duty. And Kevo, you said so many Rangers, but mostly America. And then TK,
Mostly
you
hot.
said mostly hot. TK, you said Tommy. Tommy influenced you greatly. Jake Repulsa. Tell me, what Ranger burned into your consciousness?
it's a two-answer one. I mean, obviously, I'm repping my girl Pink over here. Kimberly was, I don't know. I think I wanted to be Kimberly in ways that I didn't really understand as a kid, but
I respect that.
the thing with Billy, too, though, is that I don't know if it was a like when you know, you know. Like I saw that actor playing that character, and I was like, "Oh, that's the gay one," like me.
Kind of.
And I didn't
yeah.
understand. I didn't put together the pieces. The word "gay" didn't come into my lexicon for a few years, but I really imprinted hard on Billy because there was something about him and the way he was showing up on the screen that I got that I didn't get. And I loved the way Kimberly got to get the hot guy. That was really nice. Whoever the hot guy was at the time, who was moved around. Anyway, so yeah, I love Kimberly. I want to be gymnastics gal, but I really imprinted on Billy because I didn't understand why at the time, but I was just a big old gay.
Yeah, I mean, everybody needs their inner BJ to come out. I forgot that it's Amy Jo Johnson. I was like, Billy and Jim Amy. So I botched my joke. Great job. Let's talk Megazords. I actually, yeah, and this is just a little bit kind of like a funny thing, but like one of the things that I remember thinking, and this is so stupid, is that I remember thinking there is something about the dynamic difference to the size, shape, and build of the Zords, such that you could have a Zord that felt the most like you. And I loved the Megazord for his simplicity and his classic design, but as a kid, I was kind of like I was a big boy. You know, I ultimately maxed out at like 300 pounds as an older teenager. And it's going to sound silly, but like the Dragon Zord being this bulky boy was like something I identified with. I didn't identify with Tommy. I identified with wanting a cute scarf, with wanting a musical weapon, and with wanting the bulky boy. And that's what I really understood. And it wasn't until the Shogun Ninja Zord that I really felt like I understood what designed my sense of aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I love about the Shogun Ninja Zord is the apeness of it, the thick power and the longness.
She's a thick
Yeah.
Zord. We love her.
As an adult man who is, I'm about 6'1" and I've got really long arms, and like I like that physicality of that Zord. It really imprinted on me. Also, Space has some unbelievable Zord that I really enjoy. That is one of my absolute all-time favorite Zords ever. What Zords really imprinted on you guys? What Zords hit your Morphin grid the hardest? Oh, Kebby, I see you are hard at work doing that unbelievable producer thing.
Oh,
you do.
there
Kebby,
she is. Oh,
you are
there's
a
that
gift,
piece.
man.
We
Thank
love
you.
her.
I'm telling you, just
Shogun
like
is such a great design.
as a guy with like size 13 wide feet, that makes me feel sexy. I could be that. I could be that in a big hat.
I was into the classic Megazord. That was the show was coming on right as I was watching Saturday morning cartoons as a kid. Like that was like the perfect intersection. That and X-Men in the animated series, they were happening at the same time. That was it. So the classic Megazord always did it for me. But then a little later, I really liked some of the Zeo designs, the shapes. Oh, the shapes! It's all about the shapes.
It's all about the shapes.
I have to be honest. I quit Power Rangers the 3rd season because I got into like boys and and Kevo was like, as an adult, like he was like, "Can we watch these shows together?
There it is.
Can we go through Power Rangers together?"
Yeah.
Zeo is one of the finest children's shows I've ever had the pleasure of watching. Truly one of the finest children's programs I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with. The characters represent ideals. They represent failures to meet those ideals, and then the desire to be better. And it's just a fine piece of television. Oh, and look, they've even got a Dalek.
Yeah, I still don't. Oh, one of those two things is the Easter Island statue.
It's the one on the right, I think.
I believe you. And then the other one, I don't know. Sure,
the other
Dalek.
one is, oh god, I can't remember what the name of the thing is called, but there's a version of it in Shin Megami Tensei. It's like a guardian statue situation.
Oh!
You know what I'm talking about? The eyes? Yeah.
I love Shin Megami Tensei.
Oh, me too. But this is not a Shin Megami Tensei moment. We're talking Power Rangers and Megazords.
Well, we've got some crazy gaming stuff coming up. We've got some Link coming up. We've got some Final Fantasy coming up. It's going to be so sexy. Bradford, Delta Megazord with the Gatling gun fingers.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you're going through my personal recipe book of all the coolest Zords, but you're cooking something great over here, Brad. I'm loving these comments. This is exactly right. Delta Megazord is such a classic look. Man, those early 6 seasons. Man,
if I can counterpoint, one of my least favorite Megazords would be the original film CGI, I want to say, but like, was it that thing? Whatever that thing was. That was my least favorite Megazord.
The movie, the classic movie one?
Yes, not the Ninja Megazord, not the one that it was supposed to be, but...
We ran out of money, Zord.
Yeah, exactly. The ran out of money. Least favorite Megazord. But someone out there on the internet has made a model of it, and it's amazing.
Because it's not a bad idea, but it does look a little bit like we ran out of the budget for this season of Lego Ninjago. And that's Ninjago. It's off-brand.
Yeah.
That protects us.
It's Lego with 2 G's.
Legs.
As in my ego.
I have to agree with Jake. The Zeozords were just so. I mean, shapes. It's just shapes, people. Like, shapes. We don't need to complicate things. I don't need mythical creature. I actually do love the Phoenix. Come on, shapes. It's shapes. Just the stars coming at you. I mean, please. That's all you need. And then also Tor the Shuttle Zord. Just because, again, game changeriness. Like, I just like surprise, there's another one and it's a minivan. Are you kidding? Like, 1995 has never called stronger.
Also, this is a Zord that can literally get stepped on.
Oh my god. And it's so
Serpentera.
It was so strong. You know what I mean?
Like...
Serpentera. I had this whole thing as a kid, and I explained it to Kevo. I wanted to write like an American Sentai. And like this very powerful, dark, gritty version. And like I really wanted to go like full northeast, not like dark south. Like I really wanted to go like the horror haunts of American classicism. And one of the things that was core to this identity for me was that Zed and Rita had betrayed Zordon when they were all Rangers together. And so when that ultimately, was kind of a thing, one of the biggest elements in my mind is that Serpentera must be a Dark Dragon Zord or something. Like, Serpentera must be a Zord corrupted. And, man, I could do Zed Cannon all day. Man, I love that guy. But, Kevo, sex me some Zords.
Sex you some Zords?
Or what's the Zord for you?
Pick one. I
Pick one.
also Zeo, great choice. Obviously, Turbo is what Turbo is, but I feel like Turbo did a really good job with their Zords for being what it is. I liked that they had the 2 sets. I liked their Ultra Zord carrier. I liked that they had 2 special vehicles that season. They did a lot of things really well for the fact, because a lot of people outside of the fandom are not aware that the Sentai that Turbo is based on is actually more satire than anything else. And how do you translate that for kids, Fox
How do
Kids
you
in
I'll tell you that
1997?
you make a
coming
kid
for
Power
American
Ranger.
culture? Coming for American culture and trying to act like it's the same. It's not the same joke, and it doesn't have to be. It's okay to not be. And like they just had a little trouble with that at that point.
They really did what they could, and considering I was in like 6th grade, 5th into 6th grade when Turbo happened, I could have hated it more, to be honest, but one that I definitely want to make sure that I give a mention to is the Thunder Zords, the prime time event reveal of the Thunder Zords was the biggest deal. It everything Power Rangers after that first 3 to 4 months when those first 40 episodes aired, everything was such a big deal. And yeah, so Thunder Zords definitely need at least an honorable mention.
I'm curious if anyone has any favorites from outside the Zordon era, like past Lost Galaxy.
Oh, past Lost Galaxy,
Galaxy.
even.
I
No,
just
I
don't
don't-
know enough.
I was
I
really
actually,
into
my-
the Force Zord.
The ones that I bought
Okay.
you for Christmas.
My least favorite is post Zordon. I found the Lightspeed Rescue Zords silly every time they rolled out. God bless that season for what it was, but it was a
It's
bunch
not
of
a season
rescue
I would have wanted to
vehicles.
have been. Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Correct.
I love the conversation and where this is going, and
But-
I want to take it even further. Kevy, you have prepared an amazing itinerary for us.
Yes, before we go too far down the road of talking about generalized Power Rangers, something that I feel is important to acknowledge about this special and what we'll be talking about this episode is that it wasn't a Power Rangers 30th anniversary special. This was a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TV movie special to honor the first iteration of what Power Rangers was and the first 145 episodes. So I have here prepared the information that comprises these first 3 seasons and the movies, the dates. This is what Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was from about August 1993 to November. That says 2018. That cannot be right. I obviously mean 1995. But yeah, could you imagine? But
That might be because of the Netflix repackaging that happened later, and they post-dated a bunch of content.
I didn't even copy and paste. No, I copied
Well-
it from a different slide.
Well, looking at this body of material, one of the things that really stands out to me is that the entirety then of this universe, as we understand it, ran from essentially later-ish 1993 through sometime in 1996. And I know that the 4 of us are all within 2 years of each other. And so I actually think, it's even a little bit tighter than that. But, the nature of that means that this specifically hit all of us in a very exact time frame. And one of the things that really highlights to me is this went from age 7 to age 10. And that really is a defining shift, because at age 7, even when you're interacting with other kids, it's play dates. At age 10, I was in Boy Scouts, I was in Science Club, I was in other after-school programs, I had other obligations, I had more homework. And it sounds silly, but at 10 years old, the increase in volume of homework is usually prioritized before dinner for many students where it's possible. And so there is sort of a loss of the innocent identity that's associated with growing up with these shows in the afternoon. And I think the idea that we blossomed out of that age range as these shows did gives us a unique syncope with or synchronicity with this programming that I think makes it especially special to us. I mean, I'm literally dressed in red with white blocking to look like the Red Ranger's costume. You know what I mean?
And I think if you were in that first age demo as well, and then knowing that you grew beyond it, but the series kept going, first kind of with a lot of crossover and a lot of the same actors, and then changing every year, and it was a thing that was going on in your peripheral, but like you were always the first. And I think that's even why there was this special, and why Mighty Morphin has always been such a specifically significantly important era of Power Rangers.
And that's, exactly me. I'm slightly older than everybody else, like a grade or two older. And I remember distinctly when Power Rangers came out, and then I distinctly remember falling off in the middle of Zeo because I had just become too old, and I was really having a lot of it is time to put away childish things. And, it was not really bittersweet. It was really one of those things where I was losing interest. I think comics actually were the thing that I think I told myself I really needed to stop doing. And I just remember coming back to it like that year, even just a little bit later, and being like, oh, I am too old for this. Like, I can see that the acting is not good, and I'm just not really convinced anymore. I lack the wonder for it. And it very much was like just the entire cycle of like starting out being really young and just loving it so much, and then just being like, no, I gotta walk away.
Well, and the funny thing is, I've watched a few interviews in the intervening years, and the production team was very acutely aware of that aging out process. They knew that what you were interested in at 6 or 7 was not something you were going to be interested in at age 9, and so that made it really easy for them to take content that wasn't necessarily related story wise and from future Sentai series and then adapt it with new actors and new Zords, because the thinking was like, we're going to get new waves of audiences who aren't as familiar and can take these jumping on points and watch fresh. It was a brilliant business model. And from it came, all of these series. Thank you for putting this up, Kevin. This is just such a great illustration of what we got for that thinking, not just a cash grab, not just a thing to entertain children and make them buy toys, but a real
legit
legacy.
Business model.
Sure, but it's also just like it's decades of stories about teams learning to integrate and come together and build your Megazord. It's a really powerful symbolic metaphor that I think resonates.
And it kind of ties to something that is a famous, and I would love to get it from Kevo, who is like, he's my Jake, the way you are, TK's Power Ranger boy. My Power Ranger boy is directly beneath me in the list here, and I can't wait to hear his input. But it reminds me of something that I had a hard time explaining to him when we first got together. So one of the shows that most tells you who I am is I at all times believe that I am Samantha Stevens, Kevo is Darren, and my father and mother alternate being Andorra. And this
oh my God, and the friggin' neighbor.
I know. I'm really sorry, honey. And so my Bewitched is quite literally like my Bewitched Barbie is available.
Your mom is like Aunt Clara if she was smart.
Okay.
If you combined Andorra and Aunt Clara, if you switched their evil centers, that'd be your mom.
Well, and there's always room for a femme uncle. But so it's hard to talk about, but the final season of Bewitched is so low on interest in continuing to produce a top 20 show that they literally just reuse the Christmas episode from season 2 about Tabitha and just slot in Adam instead. It's the same script. There's about 40% same dialogue, and it's pretty horrifying.
This is after their second Christmas episode is also a repackaging of that first Christmas episode, but
As a-
with different bookends to make it seem like it's a new story, where she's like, remember last Christmas, and that it's mostly about last Christmas.
And I think that that's such a failing of television excellence. And number one, I need to be clear that like Elizabeth Montgomery is like one of those people who like shaped my understanding of what a woman could be. You guys, she produced the show. She like secretly directed episodes. She fought to make sure other women got points on the dollar. Elizabeth Montgomery was an actual superhero. But one of the things she was not was the world's greatest story author. Something that Power Rangers has managed to do for me, Jake, exactly as you pointed out, is reinvent the coming together story as necessary for an ever shifting generation of youth. The what up generation is not the word generation, is not the bet generation, and Power Rangers seeks to be new each generation. And Kevo, I know for you, this was such a defining part of who, the man you've become. And I would love to get a little bit on, like what we've just talked about, the three of us, from you.
Well, I really especially appreciated Jake's comments of saying that all of this is done with so much love, and but at the same time, I also still agree with TK that it's also about money. It's this double-edged sword of Power Rangers, where it's the same with any time I am like, oh, I'm a vocal advocate for Disney. I understand they are a company. I understand they are out for a bottom line. I understand that they are out for money, but they are also trying to grow and evolve and put out a really positive message. And Power Rangers is something that is and always has been about loving the franchise itself, going so far back. One of the slides that I have prepared is a discussion of all of the anniversary specials there have been for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And the first real one is Forever Red for the 10th anniversary. But something that I noted, and I think cannot go without saying, is a very important special 5th anniversary that happened in 1998, which was Power Rangers in Space's finale, Countdown to Destruction, which was the culmination of so much of what is considered the Zordon era of the franchise. It featured the death of Zordon, which is something that was featured in or referenced in this special. And that being a subtle 5th anniversary special, when there has otherwise literally been an anniversary special every 5 years. It's something that they really do care about, and it's something that they really try to mark the occasion with. And this is just the anniversary specials too. This isn't considering the fact that Jason appeared in an episode of Beast Morphers, which was the last set of Rangers before the first one. Tommy was in a full season of Dino Thunder. Too many seasons have had Dino, and that's okay. But so much of the franchise has been about paying attention to and paying honor to its own history, even as the franchise continues to evolve.
Yeah.
If Marvel and DC don't eventually call their crossover between the two companies that actually happens next, like Crisis Wars Infinite Infinity, I will be furious. And I think Power Rangers should just like lean into how crazy it's gotten and just be like Super Mystic Ninja Mega Force time.
Dinosaurs.
Well, it was really satisfying over the last few years seeing the Boom Studios Power Rangers comics come out, because here was an opportunity for people who loved these characters, loved this history, to take it and turn it into something that adults could consume and be entertained by. It's not to say that like you can't watch Power Rangers and enjoy it if you're an adult, because it is a little something. It's a little hard to watch. The acting is not always great. The plots are not always sophisticated. It's not supposed to be. It's a kids show.
You have to want to watch a kid's show. You can't just
Exactly.
be like, why isn't this kid's show being grown up for me? It doesn't have to be. It's a kid's show.
Exactly. And the comics have given us this great opportunity to experience this same kind of joy of loving the franchise, but with the payoff of reading a really good story too. And that was to me very satisfying as a fan.
And I do think it is one of the things that feels... It's one of the things that you really have to engage with in Once and Always, which is that it is a nostalgia fest for adults who really loved the original Power Rangers, but it is written and produced like an episode of Power Rangers in a way that I'm still sort of sitting with, like, did I love falling back fully into the mode of Power Rangers with something that is new? Or was I a little like, oh, it might have been good if you had sort of grown up the entire production the way that we've all grown up?
You know, I think about, like, if you ever have a friend that you see once every 10 years, and the minute you're with them, you don't love one of your personality traits that immediately comes to the surface. I have a friend like that, and I love this person, like, literally more than I love 90%, 99% of the people in my life. I think that this person walks on water, which is maybe even a little too much of a pass. But I give that same pass to Power Rangers. I have that same problem here. You know what, like, when I sometimes get, like, a new album by, like, one of my, like, three queens, Mariah, Janet, or Tori, I literally tell people, and they're like, oh, is it good? I'm like, yeah, but don't ask me. I'm a bad judge. I'm famous for hearing a demo and being like, I hear the final song. I hear what makes this great.
Mm-hmm.
Power Rangers, I have this, like, this optimism filter where I automatically see the beautiful thing that they want me to see, which means sometimes Power Rangers is so geared for my expectation of what they're creating, I'm an enabler for what is occasionally subpar material. But the trade-off becomes, I think about how Power Rangers and its essential necessity of self-nostalgic evolution has created a market that is able to copy this and produce it. Because what is the MCU if not understanding how to use what Power Rangers has done for itself microcosmically every 5 years and extrapolate and expand it exponentially to a macrocosmic understanding of taking 100 years of comic storytelling and recompressing it into 15 years. I think Power Rangers is responsible for a lot of, from everything from soap operas to comic book movie adaptations, and their understanding of how to manage nostalgia without speaking down to an audience that is far too smart for that.
It definitely gave us a really fantastic cinematic television-based universe, the very large, interconnected. I always loved the annual crossover that they would do with the previous team. For whatever reason, they'd come up, oh, a time hole opened up, or like something.
Oh no, Jason fell into a K-hole.
I'll say this, though. One of the reasons I found it hard to get on board with the tone and what they were doing with 30 here was that I've been watching Dino Fury and I've been really enjoying it. It's decent, you guys. There's queer characters. There's references to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
We were going to talk about that. That's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I have enjoyed what I've seen of it, and I haven't even gotten to Cosmic yet. So when I
want to fuck the hell out of that Lord Zed. God damn.
When we get to this 30 years later, the actors are all grown up. You know, I guess I was looking for something that reflected the growth that I've done as well, and maybe that's an unrealistic expectation. Period. Maybe it's an unrealistic expectation.
Do you know what I will say, though? I really appreciate hearing that you're watching Dino Fury, because I started to investigate Dino Fury a little bit, and I was like, this is pretty decent. I'm going to wait and see if Nico wants to watch it with me.
Yeah.
I'm in. And So I really appreciate hearing that perspective, because I know this is from the people who are basically the writers of Power Rangers right now. These two, this partnership, I don't have their names in front of me, but they are Becca Barnes and Alwyn Dale, and they've been co-writing Power Rangers since 2015, basically. So that was
job.
part of why I set a lot of stock in, this is an episode of Power Rangers, and that's what it's meant to be, and it's meant to be for kids, and, that's okay. It is what it is. But hearing that it's not really meeting your standards for that, I am more disappointed in it, because that had been part of what I was like, I think this is setting things up to perhaps be referenced in Cosmic Fury going forward. I don't know how far you are in Dino Fury,
On to the
or if
second
you
episode.
are okay. And it's the same team. This is the first time since ever, actually, that we are getting 3 seasons of the same set of Rangers, and it's them shooting off into space. And so it's I figured when Billy starts referencing I'm gonna go here and gonna go there in outer space, that perhaps that was something that we're setting up, and that's part of why it is very targeted at kids, so that it's something that they could watch and they could find palatable, and that they could understand better that that's where this character of Billy comes from.
And one of the things that I specifically want to interact with, I guess that kind of transitions us to the special, is that I am moved by these actors making the choice to come back. When this show came out, was in like first grade or kindergarten, and I think one of the things that affected me was seeing the Power Rangers be part of a multicultural group, and to some extent have multi-generational relationships. And these multi-generational relationships were very appropriate. Even when they're cartoon silly, Ernie was never like, come back here and let's go hang out in the juice bar's basement. I got nipple clamps. Like, he was always like a good guy.
Nice. Ernie.
And I really think that these actors taught me, like, it's going to sound so silly, but like, I guess in some way I've had a 30-year crush on Walter Emmanuel Jones, and like had held a lot of men up to like moving like that every time they dance, and like if they won't, well then you don't know how to move good, you're not sexy, you gotta go. And that's a little bit like when I see Rocky, I'm always like, wow, he's not Jason. That's something really specific. Like, it's so stupid, but Kat taught me you could. I feel so dumb because like at 37 I'm like, stupid kid, but like Kat taught me you could be 2 different pink girls, and all of the Yellow Rangers taught me you could be different women who identify by yellow, and having things you like and identify by aren't core definitions of yourself, and yourself expresses through color, which is why, like, I don't know, these actors coming back makes a statement about, you say like it didn't grow up with you, you wanted the show to grow up. These actors coming back and saying it's still okay to long for this kind of acceptance.
And just,
like, I watch Kevin, what's that stupid show we watch with really funny lady and Trend King getting watching people get punched? Nicole Byer, John Cena.
Oh, Wipeout with John
Wipeout,
Cena.
Wipeout.
HBO Max.
Wipeout.
Yeah.
I want to do Wipeout so bad. But you know what? I kind of want to do it with the power sword, and when I finish, I kind of want to hold the power sword in air. And like, we grew up thinking these were cool. We grew up thinking American Gladiators was silly and fun and cool, and we grew up on Field Day, and like, these actors coming back kind of said to me, there's parts of you that are always going to be a little kid, and every time you have a good time on a roller coaster, and for 1 second you get that air time, you get that weightlessness, and you can like experience everything in your life is weightless. While the show wouldn't grow up, I'm really grateful that these actors said they were still willing to do it, even if it didn't.
Well,
And I'm
especially
even appreciative of the ways that it shaped out in which it's a little bit hokey who came
Yeah.
back and who couldn't come back, because even that is very Power Rangers. And like this group of people and how mixed it is, and the fact that it's the 3 first replacement Rangers, a replacement Ranger from season 3, only 2 of the original 6, and but they all came back, and
Karen
it
Ashley is the
says,
sweetest person in person. I just need to say that she is so kind
oh,
and she is
she was
so
so
sweet.
wonderful to meet.
She just came
And
over to us when we were at an event and gave free stuff away to our table just because we were doing
yes,
good work, making
for
creative
the queer
art
community.
for
Yeah.
the queer
Well,
community. Just
that's
came over and
awesome.
gave us free gifts for being ourselves.
At
Seriously.
BlurredCon in DC. She does that con a lot. She's a wonderful person. And they're all such wonderful people. Catherine Hillard, no, I don't remember what her real name is, because her real name is Catherine. I don't remember which is the fake last name. But Kat, she has a podcast that she does with Tanya. She appears at conventions. All these people, they really care so much about this and about the positive message that it represents. I loved Power/Rangers, which was the Katie Sackhoff, James Vanderbeek, and I love what the comics are doing, and I really respect and appreciate all that. But to me, Power Rangers is what Power Rangers is, and the comics to me sort of feel more like the Doctor Who audios or the Buffy novels, where whatever great and wonderful things they do, that's still not Power Rangers, and Power Rangers gonna be Power Rangerin', and I want it to stay what it is. And so I really like I would love to see bigger and more and maybe something more dramatic, but I also still want to see Power Rangers for what it is as its core.
And I guess my thing is like, I agree with everything you're saying, but I feel like Power Rangers is continuing to Power Ranger. Like the Dino Fury exists, they are continuing to produce a show, and meanwhile the nostalgia factor of the older ones, like I look at both Doctor Who and Battlestar Galactica, 2 shows that had a lot of cheese in the first incarnation that people still fell in love with, but you can't deny like the production values are low, it's a little bit cheesy, and both chose to mature in very different ways. I mean, Battlestar Galactica walked a razor's edge of being too serious, but I think we all really loved what they were doing, regardless of how we felt about the end. And Doctor Who continued to say it was a children's show, and I think it is still a children's show, but like definitely showed that culture matures, and there is a maturity that you can extend into a show like that, even if you are still intending to target it towards children. And for everything you guys are saying, I don't disagree. I really love that these people came back. I don't feel that anything was done was a mistake, or like, oh, they forgot to make it mature. Like, they clearly made the intentional choices that they made, and they all panned out. I guess for me, I just was looking to see something that matured, and I do always go back to the James Vanderbeek, Katie Sackhoff thing, because while that does lean closer to that Battlestar Galactica, Razor's Edge, too serious, it's because those 2 are camp as well. Like, camp is always a factor.
It's a 10-minute movie. A longer version would have been very different. So probably. I don't think you're, yeah.
So at the end of the day, like, I just would have liked for it to evolve a bit more than it did.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, TK. And the other thing that kind of like pulls me in as a fan of the show to what the comics are doing is that the comics are specifically going out of their way to not break TV continuity. So they're working very hard not to contradict anything that's happened on the series so far, which I appreciate, because that makes it a lot easier in my brain to reconcile how they can tell these stories within the margins of the seasons. I will say the thing that made me extremely happy, and the thing that continues to make me extremely happy in kind of the the last however many years of Power Rangers oeuvre is seeing David Yost's heavy involvement. And
Yeah.
Given the fact that he walked off set because of toxic homophobia, because he was being targeted for being queer, it's really satisfying to get to see him on screen in that role again. Volunteer, like not paid presumably, but like because he wants to be there, not because he was contractually bound or obligated. Clearly, that wasn't something that was binding the old cast to this. I hope that for him, this offered a measure of catharsis or closure to that period of time where he was trying to do this work and be this character and getting so much like crap for it. I admire that he stuck with Power Rangers when Power Rangers didn't stick with him, and I admire that he's now, he's basically a queer elder. So it's good to see him standing up there and representing for us.
I mean, he absolutely is an elder in that idea of like, we existed in that 90s period where it wasn't like you're going to get lynched to be gay, but it was often very uncomfortable, and you often wound up really bullied and unhappy. And I think a lot of us have had experiences. I had an experience with a bully from that age and that era, who is a person that I now really all is forgiven. I don't love this person, but I like them a lot, and you can sort of find catharsis, and it's things like that that are sort of outside of the purview of the show but are part of the culture that I think are really cool and interesting, and sort of balance out the fact that the show itself isn't quite doing the things that I want. Having this person who was a queer contemporary, who I could kind of say like, yeah, we were going through similar stuff whether I knew it or not as a kid, and to see them return to a tough environment regarding their sexuality and turning it into a really beautiful positive thing and still being that role model for other people, that is a part of this whole puzzle that I find really important and satisfying.
And that there got to be that moment of like full on Karl Lagerfeld faggotry. There were just two gay dudes who were like, help us, our dildos are on fire. And like, there's something about, because I didn't love that they had that really sort of like, is Billy heterosexual moment. He wasn't like, yes, I long for her breasts.
That was so good. I loved it. It was so awkward.
It was
I
so
was
awkward.
Expecting something. Why even reference Thestria? But okay.
Well,
and now
like everyone is looking at him awkwardly, even me.
And it's so silly.
Non-fandom people should know.
It's just like all the straight people in the room are like, yes, Billy, you long for her, and Billy's like, do I though? I mean, oh god, sorry. As a viewer of that, I was cackling.
Oh, it was
at
horrible.
That moment.
It was, yeah, because everybody knows that story now, and let him celebrate it. A comment was made by me that Zach has remained one of the most beautiful men of all time somehow. But the actual most beautiful moment that speaks volumes about this actor, his kindness, his heart, and the immensity of his person. God, Rocky is literally the perfect man. After all these years, he is literally one of the most beautiful men ever. Anyway.
Is that what you're going to? No, it wasn't what you're
The moment between Zach and Adam.
Yes, I love that.
As kids, you were like, oh, you like the original or the new ones? And they literally said, guys, it's like, I love verses because I think it's like one of the best things that ever came out of the pandemic ever. But like that there wasn't a moment where like Mariah and Whitney got to sit down and say, guys, this became so weird and racial and making women compare to women. Don't ever do that, because every woman is beautiful and perfect and amazing. And when she's flawed, but it's not you who gets to say she's flawed like that other woman. They say that for themselves.
The Brandy and Monica one did do that, a lot of that, except the interracial part.
Yeah, and the Brandy and Monica one was so great. But the moment between Adam and Zach, like for me, I felt two halves of myself hug and agree that they own one cat in their memory.
It really does settle that ages-long fight of which is better, the old team or the new team, because it's not a matter of better; it's a matter of once and always.
Yeah.
And I love that so many Rangers have had multiple costumes, but that this special chose to sort of honor the potentiality of so many. My core Ranger, the Ranger that like in my heart is who I most identify and connect with, is probably Jason. But the reality of his story is that it can't be completed the way I would like it to be. Rocky is not the same man. You cannot just simply transfer your feelings for Rocky onto that. Rocky is a different Red Ranger than Jason was. But TJ, one of my all-time favorite Rangers, bar none, is two totally different men when he's two totally different color Rangers. So like
Yeah.
I think there is something so great about this special that celebrated the individual era of each character as well as each character.
Yeah.
So I broke the morphing grid.
Oh, there was a lot good about this. There was a lot that was good about this. I think I came down really hard on it because I wanted it to be yeah, I wanted it to feel like it was for, me. I'm almost 40, but it's not. It's a kids show. I was a little I didn't love the way they handled Trini's death and the aftermath of that. I don't like oh, she's dead 1 year later, because I feel like that's too big of an emotional bypass. I think even kids would notice that and be like, wait, she lost her mom and we're just skipping all that?
If we had ever met Min before, I would
Yeah.
definitely agree. It's more the fact that that is not how we need to meet this character, and if we
Yeah,
are
I
going
don't want
to
you to meet me
predominantly,
after I drop a coffee.
if we're going to predominantly know her after this point, then we should give her some time and distance. I actually felt it was the best way they could have handled it, because it was such a rough thing. It was such a rough choice to do in the first place. This is
Yes.
part of why I hope there are plans. I hope that they cast Min with the intention of we'll see her again. I because otherwise this
Why?
was in the first place. It was a lovely way to want to recognize and honor both Tui Trang and the character of Trini, but
And
That
I mean,
face is exactly it.
yeah,
That face
if
is
there
They-
isn't
exactly
an
it.
intention, then why?
they, Jason David Frank did not get a similar treatment, which is okay. I'm not making critique on it or anything, but there's another person
there was
who
time.
died.
Yeah, I think it was all
I-
shot
I-
before he was.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm not criticizing it, but I'm saying like there was another person who died, and that looking at the culture of watching it, like that's there. The fact that Kimberly wasn't there, that they chose to do a bunch of like just voiceovers to establish they were present. I don't hate any of it, and I think again every choice felt intentional. It didn't feel like anybody was like, well, we have to say that the three of them are present, but since they can't be here, whoops, this is how we have to do it. I believe they sat in a production meeting and were like, we could say that they don't do this anymore, that all three of them died. We can say whatever we want. And the decision was made and agreed upon. This is how we will address it. And to me, I can forgive a lot if I feel like the intentionality is there. But it does create a little bit of like, one of my big questions is where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And I don't feel as though I'm always talking about the expectations game, and I feel like a lot of big companies really fail it. And I just feel like I don't know what to do now having watched this. It doesn't push me to be like, okay, I guess I want to watch Dino Fury, but it also
Right.
doesn't leave me feeling like I should expect to see another one of these within a year or two.
I think that it needs to go to a pay model. I think it needs to go to Patreon, Kickstarter, the way MST3K has been so successful with the same format. I think if you put the power in the power of the hand and the fans, power in the hands of the fans, we can decide how much budget we believe is necessary for this product to thrive. Because part of the trade-off sort of kind of is, if you ask me what Haim Saban wants to see come from this product, he would probably tell you he wants to see the Morphes. And he wants it to be that there's so much product made by this program that there's a Best New Ranger award and a Best Crossover episode and a Best Return. And I bet if the Power Rangers franchise had its say, it would be producing 6 5-episode miniseries a year, totaling a second series, and would constantly be able to dip back into this well. But the nature of the product is that we can only produce so much at a time without fear of dilution. I kept making the joke that I was going to throw my beer at the television if they didn't give me a Portals scene. I did not throw my beer at the television. I also did not get a Portals scene. But by the point at which there was only 15 minutes left and the Zords hadn't shown up, I was getting jumpy.
See, but that's the thing. This isn't Avengers Endgame, which is even what I tried to point to at the beginning of the episode as well.
Right.
This is just meant to be a little TV movie that's like, remember Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? Let's do a little reunion. I think the biggest problems with this special and reactions to this special are not really setting proper expectations or really communicating like expectations.
Yeah.
Like, what is next? What is the plan?
How does this intersect with the rest of the Power Rangers universe?
Truly.
Yeah.
Because they did. I mean, they made enough gestures and references to other teams and other series. All those little action figures with the snakes. I mean, like that. I was genuinely surprised that we didn't get anyone else. I was also genuinely surprised. So, old actor combination wise, I thought it was going to break down like this. Aisha was going to be in the Yellow Ranger suit. Kat was going to be in pink. I thought Zach was going to be black. Billy was going to be blue. And I thought Johnny Young Bosch was going to be green because he was a green Zeo Ranger. And I was like, okay, well, if they don't have JDF, this makes the most sense. And everyone was going to be in a suit. And they weren't going to do the, like, let's replace. And they were going to actually use Aisha and
Johnny Young Bosch.
Character who's Adam.
Yeah.
Adam. And I was so surprised with the choices that they made. I was so surprised. I was like, you've got these people who are so talented and fit these roles.
I mean,
I wonder if they said no.
that's what I was going to say. I sort of feel like Johnny Young Bosch has just enough success
Cachet.
and notoriety outside of the Power Rangers franchise to really be able to pick and choose enough to say, like, I appreciate what you've done for me. I will be there. I will not be putting on an outfit. I will not be putting on a Power Rangers uniform that does not sound like me.
I don't think any of them actually put the uniforms on, though. I'm sure those were all stunt doubles.
I know. I just mean, like, I don't think he'll be showing up for any of the, because he's on a video call and then he shows up at the very end to be like, we will take
They didn't
care
do their
of things.
fighting, but there's definitely like they definitely did the
there you
Trini
go.
reaction
They're-
shots.
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
left.
thank you.
I need to be so clear that I think he looked like literally like the textbook definition of what a man should look like. But I need to point out that there were points at which it seemed a little unfair that they were trying to make Rocky run. There were points where it seemed like they had him in some shapeums, where I would have rather him just have that sexy thick core. But that's an adult man being like, I like a thick bear, like, and you can't have that be a children's superhero, because that's just the punchline that Marvel has turned the Red Guardian into. He's fat, so it's funny. So you can't ever be a thick superhero.
Volstagg, the voluminous, feels otherwise.
The voluminous, that's his literal punchline. He's super because he's fat.
And that was another unfortunate example of, like, I would have loved to see him fight more like a boxer and specifically say, like, obviously I don't do Asian inspired martial arts any longer because I'm a big bear of a man, but I can still knock over. I'm a firefighter. I can knock over a putty. Like, there you go. And
He was into
That would have been a
kickboxing.
nice
That's how he
move.
broke his back. So I don't see why not.
exactly. So at the
Yeah,
end
I
of the
thought
day,
that was
these are
asking for
the
more money.
these are the types of things that like I did feel they didn't grow this idea into. They just kind of were like, oh, it's whatever's there is there. And go for it.
I wanted to bring up one thing as well in regards to, feeling disappointed, like this is a little bit all there was. Jake, do you mind minor cosmic fury, costume, and general plot spoilers?
Oh no, please. We've had a lot of these details for a while. I don't think anyone could be fairly spoiled. At this
So,
point.
first of all, I'm hitting the wrong button. That's why. So this is the upcoming costume. These are the kids. Cosmic, obviously there's a chase into space. They're a little spacey group. This is going to be the first Power Rangers season with no Japanese footage. Specifically because of this Ranger right here, who is the first ever female Red Ranger in Sentai history. And as far as the major villain that they have chased into space and are going to be coming up against, the major focus of the upcoming season, that is it the 30th as well? And it's the 30th season, it's the 30th year, it's the 30th anniversary, they're fighting Lord Zed.
Nope.
I really have to feel like there's more coming. I don't know if it is specifically in relation to Adam and Aisha and these little badges that they are wearing here, which eagle-eyed Power Rangers fans might recognize as Space Patrol Alpha badges. I don't know, but it really, for this just being Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and a cute little TV movie, sure, I can forgive a lot. But if this was the 30th anniversary Power Rangers big to-do, then yeah, I would be a lot more annoyed that there isn't a portal scene. I'd be a lot more annoyed that there weren't cameos from other seasons. Like, there absolutely should be a ton more to celebrate the franchise as a whole. For Mighty Morphin, they got back everyone they could for the reasons they did.
And look, I just want to say, not all heroes wear capes. And something that needs to be mentioned is fandom is designed to groupthink. And I understand it's in part because we are designed as a unit, hopefully, to always move to protect our weakest members. And there is an enormous swath of people who identify with the Pink Ranger for whom fandom is not kind and could need protection and could need a watchful eye. So when there was a sense that Amy Jo Johnson, who the start of this is Amy Jo Johnson, everyone should leave her alone. She's incredible and y'all should shut up. But to go from there, to find out that she wasn't in this because she didn't feel comfortable acting in a kind of low budget kung fu special, it wasn't for her. And then to find out that she wrote a comic for the Pink Ranger where she is more connected to this franchise than she's been since she was on it. I wish fandom wasn't always forced into defensive positions by an unkind and bitchy media. But I think that the whole world needs to sort of give Amy Jo Johnson a break. She has never had it easy doing what she's done. And I don't think she's ever done anything particularly spurious. I don't think she's ever done anything particularly cruel. And
she distanced herself from the fandom for a while, but she's been so much more involved in the last 5+ years and been so much more warm and affectionate and really done a lot of great things. Yeah.
She was very present to the community when Jason David Frank died. She put herself out there. She responded to a lot of comments. She she sang songs. She talked about her,
She
she
didn't
was
have
very
to.
open about her grief. No, she didn't. She didn't at all.
Truly didn't.
So-
And
Truly.
I think, in the absence of, one of the largest figureheads in the community in the vacuum that he created, she really took a moment to step in for a while. I think rightly sensing that this was a good time for it, and that this would be a time when people could really use that connection. And maybe she needed that connection too in that loss as well. It was reciprocal.
Yeah.
And I think she partially did a favor in terms of expectation setting, insofar as like no actor owes you anything
Yep.
for any production.
Yep.
It is great when they show up. If you can make the entire crew of the Enterprise get onto the ship, that is a beautiful tableau. They simply don't owe you anything. And if Michael Dorn, God forbid, was like, I just don't feel like doing it, I think we still would have had a fantastic season of Picard.
He would have been told that it's passive aggressive.
I think that
Such
we have to meet our creators halfway when it comes to nostalgia stuff, because it can't always be perfect. It can't all be perfect.
Especially 30 years later, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, some of them literally are dead. And that's why, when they use voiceovers, I'm like, they thought of an idea and they put it to work. They weren't just like, I have no idea what we'll do about the fact that they're dead. Just film. And I think we all, because we're not going to stop doing nostalgia stuff, we all need to really come into things with those sort of hearts of saying, like, I would love to see Amy Jo Johnson, but if she doesn't show up, that doesn't mean the show is bad or she is bad, or I need to say or do anything other than watch and make a decision based on the thing in front of me, not sort of pick all of these details apart. So I create a narrative around a narrative about a narrative. And so, though she might not have been there, I think she has been good to this community, and I think it's important that we learn how to be okay with it not being exactly the thing that we dreamed.
It's not like she shuns it.
No,
it's not like she's saying like this was a dumb thing that I did and I never want to be a part of it. I mean, hey, she cameoed in the movie, in the most recent movie with Jason David Frank. Sweet. I echo everything there. Like, Amy Jo Johnson's awesome, and she doesn't just look at this and say this was nothing. And I think that you're absolutely right insofar. Everyone's absolutely right insofar as, like, these actors don't owe us anything. They don't need to come and do this. They don't need to put themselves out there, especially for the kinds of negative criticism and feedback that they often are on the receiving end of, almost no matter what they do.
No matter what.
No matter, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's she is connected to the fandom in many ways, and so are many of the other actors who've been on this show who didn't get to come on to this special. So let's celebrate that.
And weird side statement, you're just kind of going by some of the broadcasts we've done in the last couple of weeks. You know who I'm surprised was never a Power Ranger? Chris Pratt. And there's just something Chris Pratt energy about a Power Ranger actor, you know what I mean? But I kind of bring it up because talking about you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I wonder if at some point Chris Pratt was like, well, they're going to hate me no matter what. So the ones who love me will love me. I wonder how many of these actors had those days in the time between putting down their morpher and picking it back up here. And I wonder how many of these lines, these small moments, Vulcan Skull's sandwich shop, or the power gems, power crystals being used to pilot the ship. I wonder how many of these touches were, because like I know some actors have said it. I hear that at conventions. People ask me that all the time, so I ask the writers to work it in, so I never hear the question again.
That's the Sestria moment.
I really wonder. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think Power Rangers helped me to realize that you can be different people at different times. I was a nerdy queer boy, and then I thought I needed to be the extra guy who had the weird powers, and that is why I have an awful lot of Gold Ranger memorabilia. But I've come to realize that what I really am is a guy who takes on different roles and likes to lead, likes to take care of my family, and realizing that your family can be 5 people who all fit the same aesthetic as you, but each are unique in their own way. Like, I could cry talking about the lessons I've learned from Power Rangers as a man, as a person, as somebody. Like, it's so stupid, but like, Power Rangers allows you to understand transformation. I wonder how much of my desire for body modification and transformation comes from the idea of being able to bathe yourself in energy and be the hero you always thought you could be. The only thing I really want to end off on, and this is my goodbye question to everybody on this topic, is who had an attitude? Which teenager had an attitude? Who?
We can all be a little bit sassy at times, especially Kim.
Well, Tommy had a real attitude problem when he was under the influence of Rita. He was
Okay, even when not sometimes.
Rude. He was a jerk.
Even when not, a little.
I guess Carlos.
That's always been my question and my problem, though. They all just are too mild-mannered.
Well, it's not what he ever said on the show. What he said on the show is worse. He's like overly emotional, overbearing. And that's when Alpha's like, oh no, not teenagers. So like, it's even worse than it is in the theme song, to be honest.
It's a very
Attitude
Sebastian the Crab moment. You give them an inch, they'll swim all over you, you know?
Well,
you know, and really, the opening theme song of Power Rangers, then, in that regard, is proof positive of how we were programmed to have these generational fights of us versus boomers, where, like, they're saying we have attitude on the friggin' TV show where the kids are superheroes. When do they ever have attitudes? You're right, they don't. They just form cleanup clubs and, like, mentor kids and get them turned into cardboard.
How to be super jacked, like me, Jason. I teach you how to have muscles and do karate, and also leave the show.
Oh, Zordon.
So, just a chance to do my alpha voice one more time. What ranger would you be? What color ranger would you be if you could range ranger colors?
Specifically color or power? Like
the ranger you'd be. Like,
okay.
I think, I'd like to think I'm the gold ranger, but you know what? There's nothing wrong with being a standard red. That's a great job, getting the opportunity to take care of your family. There's nothing more special than being the person that everybody can rely on. And I'd like to think I would be a Red Ranger. Maybe on a little bit darker day, I'd be a Red Ranger like TJ and get the command center destroyed. But, a Zord. An entire set of Zords destroyed. But
I blame Demetria for that.
But to you guys, your Ranger, who do you morph into?
Oh, I'm Pink. After seeing the different takes in the Forever Pink comic miniseries, I think Pink Ranger with black accents is just
Such a good
so
look.
good.
She was great.
And she shared her power in that with two. She shared her Pink Ranger power with 2 others, which I thought was amazing. I love when they share the power. It's very Buffy, but it's also very good. So I would be share the power, black accent, Pink Ranger.
I think I'm still green all the way.
You know, there are a few different ones. I also loved Gold Zeo well before you, sir. So, a little bit of that. I like green, but since there's 2 of us, I can always be the Tommy clone from season 2, and I can be that green. Or I've always wanted green Ninjetti. I always want to see what that would look like. So, you know, there's so many options, there's so many Rangers, there's so many colors, there's so many things you can be, and that's just one of the best things about this franchise and how long-lived it is, that you can always find your Ranger. So,
Oh, wait, we're getting some hotness from Bradford. Ranger Slayer or
Ooh,
Psycho
the
Pink.
Psycho
Give me like
Ranger Slayer
Rangers.
is one of the most amazing Ranger
Psycho
looks, period.
ever. It's up to a Phantom Ranger for So Hot, Why Do You Bother? And
Phantom Ranger's a great one.
if I can give a nod to So Hot, Why Do You Even Bother? I'm not kidding when I say this. There needs to be a little bit more credit for the quality of design in the Beetleborgs Metallics series. While Beetleborgs is a little silly and a little, it is a couple of really cool designs on those Metallics characters. It gets a little bit of a bad rap. Also, VR Troopers was the like Red Shoe Diaries of Power
my
Rangers
gosh,
with how
yes.
dark it was. And the Sentai footage had some really cool designs. And I just want to put it out there that there were some other Power Rangers out there. For all of you people who are so excited about running up that hill, turn on cloud bursting. That's for Ranger things. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's the end of it. Everybody said their Ranger color. I just got booed. So, Jake, it has been a pleasure having you with us. We have loved covering Power Rangers with you, and inevitably we will return to the world of the Morphin Grid. But we're about to go from 6 teenagers with attitude to 12 angry men and 1 hero. So thank you so much for joining us for Power Rangers this far. We're going to jump to a different series for a little bit. But until we have you back to share the amazingness that is your Special Ranger, your pink power, and gifting us with your hot pink blackness. Oh, black pinkness. Ooh, even better. Where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me on the internet. But specifically, you can find me on Twitter at Omega Sentinel. That's like Mega Sentinel. Or on Instagram, where you can find me at the Heart Farmer. Like I'm farming some hearts.
Well,
Nice.
we think you are amazing, and we cannot wait to see you next time. We're going to take a quick break, but don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us for more amazing material here on X's for Show.
Click that bell, click that bell.
You can click. well from Power Rangers to an altogether different kind of power and justice called together by a group of people looking to change the world. We are going to change our tack from Power Rangers, though, man, I could talk about that special all day, on over to a different show that challenges our expectation of programming and concept. I was Googling around for like, what's a show to cover, right? What's something going on? And in the course of looking at that, I came across Freevee's Jury Duty. And I was like, what is it? Is it Freevee's Jury Duty? Is it Freevee Originals? I wanted to get the name right, but Freevee's Jury Duty. This show really took me by surprise, to be honest. It was about this handsome gentleman in the middle here, Ronald, being the only person not to be an actor in this, essentially, what if The Office was a jury? And, I thought it would be kind of dumb. I thought it might be a little insulting at times, maybe a little unpleasant to watch. Guys, I was so grateful that you guys took this journey with me. Tell me a little bit about how you felt kind of going into this, what we did while watching it.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those ones, Nico, where there was a good chance that I was going to be like, hey, I love you. I think we got to bag this one. This doesn't feel like a good idea. I don't think this is actually going to be a good show. I don't see us having enough to cover. I love you, but I think this maybe misses the mark. And even the first episode, I was like, okay, like I could see us talking about it, but like maybe we need like 8 shows and this is one of them. And each episode I was like, oh wait, no, okay. And I still don't think I was convinced this would be a very successful segment at episode 6. We finished the last 2 last night. They just came out. And by 8, I was kind of like, no, we actually do need to talk about this regardless of the situation. Like, this is like an important show to talk about. And, there's historical stuff I want to get into, but this was really one of the best slow burns in terms of like, I don't know that there's anything there when I look at it, and I'm shocked at what was there by the end.
You're on mute. Free yourself from the mute.
You muted me. That's why. That's so funny. It really was such a surprise, and I think a huge part of the reason that we even found it and gave it a chance in the first place is obviously Sewage Joe here from Parks and Recreation, such a big celebrity. Kirk Fox, no, I'm kidding. Obviously, still a very funny actor, but the actor that caught our attention was James Marsden playing himself, and that as part of the concept, especially because he is he's actor we love from so many things throughout his whole friggin' career,
that
man.
he name drops in this.
The one thing I love him the most from 30 Rock never got name dropped. Ally McBeal name dropped. 30 Rock didn't get mentioned.
Boy, the new associate, Ally McBeal, season 5.
But they do reference Sonic, which is something that we are loving him from right now. And so always loved James Marsden. And so we were like, sure, okay, there has to be some amount of legitimacy to it then. And then you watch the first episode, and gosh darn it, Ronald Gladden is such a fascinating man. And so much of what this project was and what it required really required finding the right person for this project and finding someone who wouldn't be a joke, someone who wouldn't fumble and perhaps embarrass themselves in the course of this, which could happen. You don't know you're on camera, so you don't know you're being recorded, so you are going to behave, and what'll happen will happen. But no, they really worked and went out of their way to try to make sure to tell a really wonderful story through and about this man.
And one of the things that really stood out to me with this story about Ronald is that I was originally sort of like, I can't do this. This is gonna be making me so uncomfortable. I'm not gonna be able to do this, right? From minute one, They make it clear he's a hero. I didn't take that seriously, so I kept describing it to people as they just never let him be the butt of the joke. The end episode, episode 8 kind of got me emotional. They make a really good argument for how he actually is a hero of a man. They put him in constant moral dilemmas, and I didn't even realize how many of them were moral dilemmas. I just kept thinking they were cute moments. There are also some really honest moments that maybe are not what you expect. There's a moment where one of the actors, right? Because the premise is he ultimately, it is revealed, agreed to be in a documentary for $2,500 about what it's like to do a jury. So he just thinks he's filming this stuff because it's part of being in LA and living in LA and being on
People
a jury.
do documentaries all the time
Yeah.
in LA. Like, it's whatever.
And he ultimately, it is revealed to him, was part of this staged show where there was no real case. These were all actors pretending to be jurors. The amount of work that went into forging this fiction is breathtaking. The thing that stole my heart every episode, he really seems like the kind of man who just wants to make the best of it. If you were trapped in an elevator with Ronald Gladden, you would remember it as a really good time. We were recently in a blackout with TK at TK's amazing home, which he is so kind to open up to his guy and his guy's
But Maine
guy.
be Maine.
But Maine be Maine, right? And I'm so lucky that he does that for us. But one of the things was we had a blackout, and it was, I'm not great with blackouts. I'm fine, I'm fine camping, but I'm not great in a house with no power. And TK, I feel like the energy the vibe you're sensing is the vibe you created was very Ronald. Ronald really just seems like a best case guy. I don't know. It's so hard to explain the show without giving it all away. So I guess we kind of have to. Ultimately, Ronald makes little relationships with all of these people, including actor James Marsden. And in every situation, he puts himself second. He makes his goal to prop people up. But one of the actors at one point is like, oh, I'm going to go rub one out. And Ronald just goes, yeah, man, well, you got the time, right? I'm not saying anything. But I'm saying man, woman, non-binary. I'm not here to bust chops. You can just call me Bob. Whatever you go by. Many of us have, you got the time. And Ronald's humanity in that moment is one of the most accessible things in a remarkable program full of amazing actors. Really, every one of these people is when you know someone who's into improv, you're sort of like, our boyfriend Jonah is really into improv. You raised your hand? Oh, TK's also really into improv. Right. I'm into watching improv. I like improv, but I'm not make people go to it. Every one of these actors could get me to go to improv.
I think another really important thing to point out is Ronald is a great guy, but not in the way that you think of when somebody says this person is a great guy. He doesn't seem particularly chivalrous. He's not over the top. He is very, he's a nice guy, but he is not deeply interfacing with everybody, and yet he makes them all
get a crane.
He makes them all friends. He has friend moments with them. He always wants to to play Nintendo with you. He wants to, when you're the guy next door to him and you say you want, this is one of the things is they sequester this jury and Ronald is set next to one of the weirder characters who, you know, makes the viewer deeply uncomfortable, and he's really weird and off-putting, and this is of course all intentional. And it's very obvious that on his own Ronald wouldn't necessarily reach out to this guy and ask him to hang out, but the guy reaches out to him. And it's funny, Ron is improving in his own way, in that way of he's saying yes and to every single one of these people in real life who is trying to do a bit where they yes and him.
And he could say no. I'm sure there's tons that
some of these are not unreasonable. Like, you know, saying no to the weird guy who has an adjoining room to you. That's if you told me a story about that, I would not be like, oh, you know, you always want to welcome somebody into your home. I would say, like, yeah, if somebody made me uncomfortable like that, I would keep them out as well. But not this dude.
The character in particular that TK is describing, the actor was given one of his only guidelines was he's uncomfortably obsessed with people's body parts. And Ronald found it in his heart to give this guy a secret set of knocks. The guy was like, I'm going to knock for this many, for that, for this many, for that. And instead of being like, I don't know, man, just stop. He's like, sure, dude, that sounds great. I want to be a sure, dude, that sounds great guy. But I'm not. And I want to be. And, okay, if I have one actual frustration, there was a friendship on this show that, for me, was like, I don't know which side of being Rayanne and Ricky I would rather be, but you saw him form real relationships with these people. The one thing that I will admit about this show that is hard for me is the sense of betrayal that Ronald must have experienced upon discovering that none of these people were truly his friends. That's tough, because there are so many moments where, like, I know how I am. And when I find, this is a happy endings quote, but when I find my asides guy, that guy that I can just talk to, right? I sometimes teach. I teach upper high school, lower college, and I will find that 18-year-old that I can make eye contact with and be like,
you know what's going on. You've got to figure it out.
Exactly.
I see you.
I find that other adult that I can be like, you get what I'm going through right now in this misery, right? Ronald had that, but he never made it seem like misery. He made it seem like a smile and a laugh. You know, when you buy a 64-pack of Crayola, you're stuck with a lot of mac and cheese and a lot of burnt sienna. But there's always that cerulean and that forest green, and it really seems like Ronald turned every crayon into a cerulean. He made this silly, motley thing be so beautiful. And that was something that really made me want to talk about this on our program. It's not so much that we watched a show that was what if The Office was half real? What if we redid Joe Schmo? It's more like, what if we interacted with the idea that television only needs to be partially scripted? I really liken it to a show that was on the air for 4 vainglorious years, but certainly not enough time, or 5, I think it might have been, episodes, which was a marvelous program on Showtime, co-produced with the BBC, and it starred the all-time hottest man on television, Matt LeBlanc, opposite somebody, and Tamsin Gregg, who is the all-time most talented, funny woman on television ever. And it's just way too good a show.
LeBlanc was very Marsden in this program, yeah.
Yeah, he plays himself, and a fictionalized version of himself, but one of the things that it captured really carefully throughout the course of the show was the idea that TV is so generated that when an executive recommended throwing out the schedule and trying to fuse creative ideas with reality ideas, they purposely pushed it to such silly places that he's recommending that they hold people hostage so they can also do the news on it. Now, obviously, he's being silly when he gets up on the table and he says, "How about that, my zombies?" and he's going so over the top. But jury duty actually makes a case for the possibility of designing programming with good intent where the non-actor for that matter, is treated as the hero. This makes me have hope for pushing forms of media in new places. I would assume that a non-scripted The Office would be painful. Uh, this taught me that a non-scripted The Office proves the heart in everyone is great. How do you guys feel about what this does on an advanced idea network being an advanced idea program?
I think it helps that they planned it so well and had such good intentions. One of the things you see when they talk more about the process is that they have contingencies. If they do something where they push Ronald too far, they have backup plans where they're like, this is how we will buy back his comfortability and make it okay. And I think that can be lost in repeat attempts or variant attempts, where I think people who say they're trying to do the same thing, you're not and you didn't, and so it's a risky game. But I'd be interested to see alternate concepts or attempts for sure.
I keep suggesting season 2 is semester at sea.
I don't know what that means.
It's a thing. It's like a program that you
No, I
do.
don't know what it means for this. I don't know what it
Oh.
means.
Well, I mean, I imagine either one student or one teacher, depending on how you wanted to play it, would be the one person.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So a student, like probably college.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay.
But I could also see it being a teacher, which I think would be really funny. I'm just so interested in that. One of the things that comes up a lot when people talk about The Office is being like, oh, just all this amazing improv, and everybody on The Office being like, basically nothing is improv. And then you have to keep in mind, anytime an improv works, the chances are that the idea of the improv worked. It was not that the improvised moment worked.
Yes.
Because there are about 1 billion technical issues that will result in the actual first time you film it, it might not be usable. It also might be that the first time you film it, it's a 2-minute bit and you do need extra footage. You do need to cut back and forth between cameras on a multi-camera show, even if it looks like a single camera show. And so you will need to film more times. And as soon as you film more than once, that magic that you, the viewer, believe comes from a beautiful improv actually is not there. And that's okay. If I'm the person that is telling you this for the first time, nothing is improv. Everything is planned and scripted, because things just don't work like that. Magic strikes once and then you're on to the next thing. And if you want to recreate it, it's a very different kind of magic. You simply
To do another Cecily Strong quote, magic isn't real. It's all made up stuff done by liars. Sorry.
Thank you. You just can't expect that. And so the thing about this show is that they did catch a lot of really beautiful flash in the pan moments, more than I think most television is able to. They also planned real specifically. They had an entire facility that they were filming in. As Kevin mentioned, they had contingencies for setups for what they would do. I can't imagine the amount of footage that they shot versus what we actually saw. 8 half-hour episodes, so that's 4 hours worth of footage. They shot for weeks. They were filming all day. I mean, they cut and cut and cut and cut. Not to mention the fact that they picked one guy out of, did they say they had like 2,000 plus applicants? So they had to find exactly the right person who they felt would respond in the ways that were necessary. And yeah, Taryn pointing to one of my favorite quotes from Arrested Development. It's not magic.
It's illusion.
My illusion. Yeah, I mean, TV magic is so much illusion. It is so much the planned thing. And this show planned differently than other shows do. But the planning was still there. And I think one of my really big fascinations was the last episode and starting to get a small peek, but not really ever compared to what you could get into what the planning actually was and how much
Yeah.
it took to pull this off.
So I was like, Kevy's not talking. I'll talk. One of the things that I also think is really important to consider about the nature of a program like Jury Duty is the show has, and this was pointed out by Kevo and TK both, the show must have more outtakes than almost any other program because we see the bits that worked. We didn't see a single bit that didn't work. And when a bit doesn't work, like when I'm on air and something doesn't work, I have to just let it go. But when something doesn't work and we're filming, like, and doing, I'm like, hey, you know what, Kevo, I need to take that again. I didn't hit that right. We gotta, all right. So can you just make the time marker? Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's how I fell off of that truck and onto that guy. And I do the punchline again. No one could be like, let me redo the punchline. And we even found out that one of the actresses, who, by the way, if you had asked me, name the 3 people in this who had experience doing their job before they did it, Bailiff Nikki would have been at the top of my list. So to find out that the judge and the lawyer both had real life court experience and Bailiff Nikki didn't, she was the 3rd I would have put in that list. So she was just spectacular. And she evidently, at one point, accidentally said one of the other actresses' real names. And instead of letting them see her break, she just found somebody to pretend to be Cassandra and acknowledges Cassandra. Yeah, later on in the episode,
the next
so that somebody
day,
with that name
in front
exists.
of Ronald, she specifically goes out of her way and is like, and don't forget your bag again, so that...
Great to see you, Cassandra.
Because he catches it and is like, who's she thinking about? And there's so many ways that you can play that off, and it's why improv people are so important. I would have gone with, like, I meant Vanessa. She looks just like my neighbor, and so I'm always thinking Cassandra when I mean Vanessa. I'm just tired. And it requires that experience, that ability, for as much as it is planned and scripted.
Go.
I was going to say...
You're muted.
So much planning that when they ran out of stuff, they had to, like, make up a day with COVID results that somebody came into the room with COVID so that they could find a way that the cast could rehearse all new stuff, because what they didn't expect was Ronald cared. He didn't just care about his other jurors. He cared about serving justice right. He didn't want to put an innocent man through something. And so Ronald was so invested in the case, they had to start making up, like, all of the other parts of the case. Yeah. And all said and done, the thing that this makes me long for, I guess, more than more shows like Jury Duty, is more men like Ronald Gladden in the world who would always be the hero in an episode of Jury Duty. But the other thing that it kind of pointed out to me was the absurd level of microcosmic design that was created here. They had to go with an actor that Ronald could possibly recognize. They had to go with personality types that Ronald would recognize. While I certainly understand that that is the makeup of television, it's hard not to notice the predominant whiteness of this cast in LA, which is maybe not the whitest neighborhood on Earth, and more power to it for its beautiful diversity. By the virtue of this being maybe a little bit white more leaning, and maybe a little bit more dude bro-esque, one of the things that you walk away from is that humans are maybe a little bit, hey, I could see if I follow if you can. One of the things that's always great is this show's design effort really showcases that we are kind of designable creatures, there is a thought process behind creating a world that Ronald would thrive in that's a little bit different than the thought process to create a world that I would thrive in. For instance, for me, you would need a lot more Golden Girls loving fag hags and hot bearish dudes. But Ronald needed a world that supported the reality he understood, recognizing that this world was not just a world that Ronald lived in, but a world that was designed for Ronald, actually makes him passing the tests more incredible because the design was such that this was something he could imagine, even if it was outlandish. The lack of reality, of realism, allows many of us to behave in ways that would be inappropriate and foolish. Ronald instead took it as an opportunity to be exemplary. I wonder a lot about the feasibility of programming a creation like this around just anybody. I don't know that just anybody could have 11 characters shaped around them in the direct and then an additional 30 something in the bigger world.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot that we can't speak to in terms of how feasible this is to do again. Would you do it with a group, and how would the group respond to the actors? What's another really cool thing about this show is the actors have the characters have their own storylines. The actors are acting as though they are on a show like The Office. And there are times where, for you, the viewer, it's not real, but they are presenting you with the actor character stories that are only tangentially tied to Ronald. There's one where two characters are interested in a romantic and sexual relationship, and they do try and hook Ronald in for some hijinks, but Ronald says no. And this is not what it's more of a funny no, not like a moral thing, but like they continue to then show us now it's James Marsden.
The narrative.
Yeah, we get the whole narrative of these three characters that we know are all actors, and now Ronald isn't even in the room, so it doesn't really matter that they are in a relationship or trying to have sex, which is what's happening in the context of Ronald responding to it. But it's still a show, and there are still storylines, so this continues and we get to watch it and laugh along with it. That's one of those things I think about, like if you were to do this again and you were to change things up, if you were to make it bigger, could you still do those types of stories? It's very interesting the way that they manage to hybridize reality TV and sitcom. They really did a fantastic job. And Nico, we were talking in the car earlier today just about how there are forms of media and forms of storytelling that we're kind of starting to tire of the standard. And it is the difficulty with seeing so much innovation at the same time as you see so many grooves into which people can become comfortable and avenues of distribution can feel safe and good. But they're starting to also feel a little bit lifeless. And this is across the board. This is in publishing. This is in film and television. This is in music. It just is a really varied time where there's a ton of innovation, but there's also a ton of safe plays. And when you watch a show like Jury Duty, it really makes it tough to get excited about the next safe play by the big artist or, the big team that because somebody is out here figuring out how to tell a hero's journey story with a real person that yet somehow works as a sitcom and a reality TV show. That's insane. And then it's like the fact that it's on Freevee of all things, just this kind of Amazon one-off network. This is not, you can see it on Amazon Prime, but this is not Amazon Prime. You can watch Freevee if you are not an Amazon person. It does have commercials, but they're actually totally reasonable. And so then there's questions of like content distribution and making content for distribution platforms. That's interesting. There's just a lot at work with this show outside of its really incredible concept and beautiful story that I think is the whole picture of why we were so excited to talk about this.
Absolutely. And there are so many different directions that it could go and grow in, whether you wanted to focus more on the narrative aspect, whether you wanted to try and focus more on how far you can get away with, you know, stretching the limits of reality and keeping a person from guessing that this could possibly not be real. So many things you can do with it. So I don't know whether we could expect to see more. I don't know whether we could expect to see more like it, but I'm really glad that we discovered it as it was airing. I think in terms of weird, niche, small experimental television on our coverage, I don't think we've been this excited in the moment for something since Rap Battle when we covered it for Christmas 3 years ago.
The other thing this show gave me is it reminded me that I haven't seen everything, even if I've seen it all. I've watched every lawyer show I've had an opportunity to absorb. I've watched every mockumentary show thrown my way. I've even seen some punked is it or isn't it real kind of shows. This was the first time I felt engaged. It was easy to kind of like call Ronald a character, call the other people characters when they're actors. You know what I mean? There were some really weird elements to it. But we're living in a world where, like, Mario Brothers, which started in the 80s, is now one of the most successful films of all times. We're seeing a world where the Power Rangers franchise is getting Netflix specials. And at the same time, this very world is a world in which, supposedly, only 28 people signed up for Twitter Blue the first day. And the thing that tells me is we don't really know what the internet is going to be tomorrow. We don't really know what weird thing is going to get pitched that we're going to go for. If you had told me, what if Episodes was a little bit real and there would be an extended James Marsden as a giant turd, which the shit humor is the one thing that did not work in this show.
It's boys.
But when all is said and done, the reveal of why they did it, it's another test for Ronald. How they did it, because, you know, they're not going to do biohazard material, so they had to create a visual that Ronald then believes. It was something we all agreed last night as we went into episode 8, like, God, I hate that kind of humor. It really didn't work. Did they really feel like they needed to do it? And while I would have been perfectly happy if that ended up being one of the gags that didn't work and went on the cutting room floor, that it did, and then was relevant to the character of Ronald and the adventure that he goes on, actually redeems what is not funny as a poop joke and is amazing as a, like, the hero of the story proves his herodom through a poop joke.
Next level poop joke. Don't expect it, but there it is.
It's a whole new category of storytelling. Oof. So, talk about poopery. So I want to get this stream off of a list, and I want to focus for a minute on why this show felt so important to me to cover. It's been a really long time since I felt like TV wanted to do something new. I am not blaming anybody but the executives that let this happen. But the writer's strike damaged television forever. Thank God, because television needed to die. It had never been that a medium had existed as long as television, radio, film. Yeah. One of the things is we recognize things to be evolve or die. And evolution is just a change, right? It's a form of death, but it's a beautiful new rebirth. And this isn't it. This truly isn't, you know, Twin Peaks: The Return, which is one of the most unbelievable transformative experiences of my life. But this is a really good step by a brand that I associate with being about as creatively innovative as putting on your shoes one at a time. I do not associate Amazon with compelling, first thought, first of its kind programming. And what they gave me was closer than anybody I associate with being brave gives me, which is a reminder that maybe some art can be surprising because nobody's expecting it. This has all the hallmarks of something predictable. Power Rangers had all the hallmarks of something expected. Ultimately, Power Rangers provided something expected in a way that I didn't expect. This provided something unexpected in a way that I didn't expect, which maybe makes me appreciate the journey of jury duty in and of itself more, but Power Rangers more for the 30 years that it's represented to my life. They're both about heroes, and they're both about the ability to see yourself in something and become something. So I think they make a lot of sense together. I think that they both talk about the idea of fake justice, and I'm really glad we talked about them. I would love to get your guys' parting thoughts on jury duty. For me, I really want a second season. I would like it to be in a different form. Maybe call it from the creators of Jury Duty and give it a name. Maybe call it Hero's Journey Season 2. And maybe we're surprised because the person makes all the wrong choices and in the end just goes, I was kind of a shitbird, wasn't I? And like that's the reveal for season 2. But these producers bought a lot of goodwill from me. They bought a lot of goodwill from me. And I would love to know how you guys overall feel about what was probably my favorite program surprise of 2023 so far.
I really love your pitch for it to be sort of an Ebenezer Scrooge tale instead. And especially thinking of it as that. Yeah, sure. That would be a really interesting concept to see from another season of this. Yeah, I would love to see more. It was such a surprise. I was expecting that would be kind of fun. We love James Marsden, like we have said repeatedly, both this episode and just on this program in general in 2023. So, like, yeah, we just thought it'd be kind of fun. I didn't expect it to be very, very smart, very well played. Discovered a lot of fun new actors that I'd never known before. Like I said, Sewage Joe, who from Parks and Rec, that's someone that we do know. So I don't know if I could have been put in a situation like this. That I'm a little bit too hawk-eyed when it comes to paying attention to bit actors in different things. But if you can get away with it, I think that's the biggest fear, is getting away with it. But there's a lot of ways you can branch out the concept, and so I'd love to see more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what will happen with that. It's always tough. Thankfully, this isn't explosively popular, which I say thankfully, but that's for me, not for the show. It should be explosively popular. If you're watching this, go watch that afterwards. And unfortunately, if that happens too much, it may mean that they only really get 2 or 3 seasons. Kunk on Earth can't go on much longer in the way that it has been, because now everybody knows Philomena Kunk is not a real person and they are being interviewed for something that isn't real. And she was saying that has started to happen, that it started to happen towards the end. Like, people knew that she was an actor, but they kept going along with it. So, I mean, I hope they're able to do more than anything. I hope that people keep innovating and that we as viewers keep asking for innovation, keep holding creativity and production to standards of pushing envelopes and going outside of boxes, staying outside of comfort zones, and that we as viewers reward that when it happens, that we watch the shows, that we talk about them, that we recommend them. We all are sort of have the responsibility in the part that we play in generating and consuming culture to have some standards and to reward when we see good being done and to ask for better when we're seeing stuff get stale. And I think it's a very tough thing to do. That we are all lovers of comfort television, there is a place for that. I mean, I can't, the number of times that I've seen shows like 30 Rock, The West Wing, like just shows that are my comfort shows, it's a little insane. But at the same time, when a show like this comes out, I'm really eager to engage with it, and I encourage other people to be as well. But the onus is on us. We do have to do a little bit of work, otherwise we are just going to keep getting really safe rehashes. And so this is a really perfect example of something. 8 episodes, half-hour episodes, very low commitment, but it's so fascinating and it's worth your time. And if you will just give that chance to a lot of stuff, especially stuff that doesn't seem like it might be good, or that it might be up your alley, that's what you can do as a viewer and a consumer to kind of elevate media and culture. Besides, going out and making your own, which everybody should do. We're all more creative than we realize. So it really just left me feeling fired up about all of that stuff. And really, we talk a lot about what we're going to cover on this show, and there's some very obvious stuff. Tomorrow we are covering Star Trek and Star Wars. Of course we are. We're so excited to talk about season 3 of Mando and season 3 of Picard. Of course we are. There was never a question in our minds that was going to happen. But I know there's other shows like Jury Duty that we don't even know are out there to talk about. And I'm more excited than I was 3 weeks ago when Nico started putting this out there to go find those and, to be able to say to all of you, look what's out there.
Yeah. A lot of people love to say there's nothing on or they're so uncreative, but look for it.
And as TK mentioned, I'm so excited about tomorrow night's first of its kind Boardwalk stream. We're going to be Boardwalk streaming directly from the New Jersey Shore. Those of you who don't know, a bunch of this production is about 25 minutes from Asbury Park, so technically we're always broadcasting from the Jersey Shore. But because everybody sort of assumes that, the flexing I do, I'm that kind of Jersey Shore, we just don't mention it that much. But we're going to be in Asbury Park tomorrow, and I just can't wait. I'm so excited. And we're going to be bringing you a double star-studded episode featuring the incredible likes of the season 3 finale of Picard and the season 3 finale of The Mandalorian. This is going to be Mandalorians, it's going to be Picardigans. We got everything we could possibly want, and I just can't wait, man. This is going to be the bee's knees, but at the beach. So
the seagull's knees.
Yeah, why do seagulls live at the sea? Because if they lived at the bay, they'd be bagels. So, okay, guys, and I'm going to fall off the screen. Where can everybody find you, incredibly handsome gentlemen, online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at xnateXgrayx.
And you can find me on the tweeters and the grams at Kevoreally, KEVOREALLY. I didn't look at the screen and read it.
As always, you guys can find me over on Twitter, Instagram, and any social media that includes Twitch. That's Steam. That's everything at Nico Action. So please feel free. There's only one of me. All my accounts are Nico Action. I get the verified check where I can, but you know where I won't be getting the verified check. All right. Well, until next time, keep those mutant lights lit. Keep those Krakoan. Oh no more Krakoan gateways. Let's talk about it. Guys, it's actually kind of hard for me because going from Ronald Gladden to GLAAD Award winner, I love having won this award because I feel like I've been a faggot longer than most people. I came out in single digits basically, and
same.
I was really alone for a really long time. No one was gay like me, and I was a different kind of gay, and that led me to some stuff that I didn't always think was meant to be the gay experience. But coming to realize that at 37 I am the gay experience because I am a queer person who, by the way, every form of queer is welcome except the forms of queer that don't want other forms of queer. The trans matters, and if you don't have room for that, T. So this really feels to me like Joe Glass, Matt Miner, and Tyler Chin came together and said, there's room for every kind of queer male in the entire universe. They put it in one book, and so many of us get to share that experience. It's a beautiful thing to get to feel like this isn't my award, it's our award. And it's an award for kind of all queer people, but also the people whose names are in the book. And I just couldn't be more proud, because I do feel like this is the sort of thing that David Yost wanted. This is why there are two queer men in this episode of Power Rangers, because representation matters. And so, until next time, keep those mutant lights. No, damn it, Nico. Keep those lights. I gotta come up with a new sign off.
Keep the light lit. We like that, though. It's like the series finale of Modern Family. Keep the light on. Keep the doors unlocked.
I've got it. Girl, put your record on. Play your favorite song.
No.
Go ahead. Let your hair down. Oh, no, okay, I've got it. I've got it. Keep your lights lit. Keep your gateways open. Remember, one of my favorite memories will always be the first time I heard Noah say, smaller jumps, James, please. You guys have got to check out that unbelievable episode where they do a take on soaking in Jury Duty. And we will be back tomorrow with Star Wars, Star Trek, and of course, these two unbelievably handsome men that I get to call my co-hosts. All right, this is X's for Show signing off.
Bye.